Hey guys, welcome back to another edition here at Charlotte Market Insights. If you're new to the channel, my name is Brian Taylor and I'm the owner of Dreamline Realty right here in Charlotte. And what we do on this channel, we take all of the headlines that are circulating out there in the national news and we do our best job to break them down for you to see what's actually happening here in the Charlotte real estate market. And today we've got a plethora of topics today, but we are going to start with a Zillow report that is showing where Charlotte ranks as one of the best markets for 2026. We've got another report that came out from Redfin showing us some interesting information about days on the market, and they have Charlotte ranked in that report as well. Then we're going to talk about FHA mortgages and the recent surge with those and why people are flocking to FHA mortgages, and show you what the rates are compared to a 30-year fixed on a conventional side at least. And then we're going to take a look at some inventory numbers and see if inventory is actually rising and what that looks like as we go into and farther into 2026. And then we're also going to talk about home prices. Are they actually falling in Charlotte? There's a little bit of conflicting information I want to go over with you when we look at the Charlotte data specifically. But let's break this down and get into this Zillow report because this is pretty fascinating to me. It says Zillow's best markets for home buyers in 2026, where buyers have leverage and upside. So when we go further into this, it says Zillow's most buyer-friendly markets of 2026. As you can see, Indianapolis, Indiana comes in number 1, followed by Atlanta, Georgia, and then number 3 sits Charlotte as one of the buyer-friendly markets in 2026. So let's see what Zillow is referring to when they classify a buyer-friendly market. They are saying, number 1, that's a market where there is cooling now, but there's upside ahead. Number 2, they're saying it's a market that offers more affordability from a monthly burden perspective. And then 3, it's a market where there's more negotiating leverage. Now, I will say for number 3, for sure, we are seeing a ton of seller concessions right now. If you're a buyer in this market going into a contract and that house has been on the market for 20 to 30 days, you have some leverage to get some closing costs paid for you. So that's pretty good stuff there coming in from Zillow. But let's shift gears over to that Redfin report. And we're going to talk for a minute about Austin, Texas, just for a moment, because it says Austin, Texas, once among the nation's hottest housing market, is now the slowest. It says the typical Austin home that went under contract in December spent a record 106 days on the market, compared with 60 days nationwide. A decade ago, Austin was one of the fastest markets in the country, and that was true. So let's take a look and see what they're saying about Charlotte. So this graph here shows us the median days on the market for homes that went under contract in December of 2024. And at that period of time, you can see Charlotte outlined in red. We were the ninth housing market in the country that had the most days on the market, and that sat at 64. But if we shift gears and go into December of 2025, we are still in the 9th place, and the days on market has gone up to 77. So as I've talked about in many of my videos, homes are sitting on the market a lot longer. Right there is proof of that. And if we go and take a look at Charlotte market data, this actually came out today, and the days on the market for Charlotte sits at 67. As you can see, we just saw the Redfin number at 77. I'm showing you 67. Obviously, everybody has a different way of calculating numbers. Personally, this data that I'm showing you at 67 is directly out of the MLS, so that is what I would actually gauge the accuracy off of. All right, so let's talk about FHA mortgages. It says FHA mortgage demand rises as borrowers face affordability challenges. Now, one thing y'all might not know about FHA loans is you can get into an FHA loan for 3.5% down versus most conventional loans at 5.5% or 5%. But this article here talks about applications for a mortgage to purchase a home fell 2% for the week and were just 4% higher year over year. Homebuyers are still facing a pricey market, and supply is starting to fall again after rising for much of last year. Carrying on, it says FHA purchase and refinance applications increased, helping partially by the FHA rate declining and remaining 20 basis points lower than the conforming 30-year fixed rate. Now, that was from Joel Kahn. He's the vice president and deputy chief economist at the MBA, which is the Mortgage Bankers Association. And he goes on to say that borrowers are increasingly utilizing FHA loans as affordability challenges remain despite recent improvements. And it goes on to say at the bottom there that mortgage rates dropped slightly on Tuesday, according to a separate survey from Mortgage News Daily, which is what I'm going to take you over to now. And you will see the difference in the blue box there. That is the average conventional 30-year fixed rate for someone who's putting down 20%, has a really great credit score and all of those things. But if you look at the box in the red, you'll clearly see that the FHA rates have now dropped to 5.69%, which is what I was alluding to, is a lot of people are flocking to these FHA mortgages because they can get a better interest rate and a lower down payment, not to mention all the other benefits of those. That's probably another video for another day. But the point being is FHA loans are becoming an increasingly good option for a lot of buyers, especially first-time buyers. All right, so let's talk a little bit about inventory. So this graph here says that inventory is making a comeback. So if we go over to the very left, you can see the bars in the blue. This is a 10-year comparison of where inventory sat. But specifically, if you go back to 2021 when the COVID pandemic hit, and even the couple years before that, you will see the drastic decrease in inventory. And as we make our way further over to the right, the bar in green is what 2026 is to be projected. So more inventory than 2025 for sure. And if we go over here and take a look at this graph, it says 9 states are back above 2019 inventory levels. But it may be hard to see that, but North Carolina is still a little over 12% behind those inventory levels. So North Carolina has a little bit of catching up to do, but definitely making our way, clawing ourselves back into having those pre-pandemic levels. And I really feel like we're going to start to make some more headway as we head into this year. But for Charlotte specifically, this is year over year, January 2026 numbers compared to January 2025. Charlotte sits at 14.4% of an increase from last year, currently having 9,977 houses on the market. So again, clawing our way back into that more inventory situation. Now let's talk about cooling price growth. Look across, this is all across the country. This is the percent change in home prices year over year. Now this is for Q3 of 2025, but the national average was at a 2.3% price over price appreciation. North Carolina sits at 2% right now. Now you can see some of those markets that are in orange, like the Texas and the Colorado. Those areas there are sitting at negative numbers. So their price appreciation has significantly cooled and they are in the negative. But when we look at expected moderate home price growth over 2026, this graph is what all the economic people are saying. And the bar on the very left, the 1.6% bar in green, that is the average of what everyone is predicting right now for 2026 as the nation in a whole. All of those numbers in green, for the most part, are all of the economic indications and predictions. You do have 2 in the red that are showing a negative number. But what does that look like for Charlotte? And this is what I was alluding to when I said this could be a little bit of conflicting information. So if we look at the median sales price for Charlotte, year over year in January, Charlotte was up 2.2% in price appreciation. The median home price today sits at $390,000. And this is where it gets a little misleading to me, because if you go back and look at October, November, and December, every one of those months was at $400,000. Now the median home price has fallen to $390,000. So will this continue to fall, or will this level off and start ramping back up in 2026 when I think we're going to see more buyer activity coming into the market? We'll have to wait and see what that all looks like. So last thing I'll share with you here, affordability. This is a chart that came out. Affordability is returning to the market, and this is comparing the affordability of purchasing a home versus buying or versus renting a 3-bedroom home. So in the South, 66.3% of the counties, this is measuring the counties, so 66.3% of the counties in the South have affordability where buying a home is actually cheaper
than renting a 3-bedroom home. So that's very interesting to see that graph there. Wanted to share that with you while I had you. But guys, some of you may be out there looking for new construction. And if you are looking for new construction, I highly encourage you to check out our sister channel on YouTube at Brand New Charlotte Homes. Over there, we have over 300 videos of all the communities around Charlotte. We've got neighborhood tours, floor plan tours. We're comparing builders. It's all over there at Brand New Charlotte Homes. But guys, if you need my help in your home search or just have a question, that's where you can find me. All of my information is there on the screen. There's also a link in the description below that'll take you right to my calendar. Schedule a Zoom call with me. Let me know what you need help with. We'd be happy to have a conversation with you. And if you haven't checked out my last 2 videos where I did a very deep dive on Harrisburg, North Carolina, if you love data, you're going to want to check out that video. I compare the last 365 days of activity that's gone on in Harrisburg, and then the previous video that I did before that right there on the screen. So guys, thanks so much for tuning in today. Appreciate you watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that. Make it a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.